It's been some grueling weeks of championship action, and it will all culminate here tonight in the Velocity Ultimate Masters. Just two teams now have the opportunity to claim their championship. It will either be a third title for ET8 Esports on the spin, or it will be a second title for the Shazoo Cedars Igniters. The two Titans will go at it here in Lusail for the final round of the championship. I'm Jake Sperry. That's James Otter as we get ourselves set for the final round's worth of action. And James, as we walk into the final round of Season 5 of the Velocity Ultimate Masters, we take a look at where we've been over the course of this season. And quite frankly, this has been about, I would say, a game of who takes control. And over the second half of this season, it has been Shazoo.
Hiya, good evening, everyone. Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Now, as well, remember, these tracks have also chopped and changed throughout the season as well. We did have Canada in place of Imola, but then Imola took that one. Japan was the place for China, but then ended up being replaced by Japan, and then Japan's original spot was Mexico. So it's all about the drivers having to contend with changes throughout this particular season, the drivers having to chop and change between teams as well, and ultimately, in the Ultimate Masters, Shazoo seems to be the ones coming out on top.
Yeah, the Velocity Ultimate Masters, brought to you in collaboration with Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. We will take a look at what happened last time out. An all-important win for Silo. His 5th in 6 starts here in the Ultimate Masters this season. He has been on red-hot form with Ryder Dahl 2nd and Aaron Wright 3rd. Dirk would get 4th, which sets the scene for tonight with Gavroche and Fedamori 5th and 6th. Armateo only in 7th with Epic Vale 8th, Otto Zito 9th, and your Opoop rounding out the top 10. Really, it's all about as well those teams down at the bottom, Tatum Restec, All Elite, and Alien Motorsports. What a day it was for Gotto, which has practically clawed All Elite into that 8th place.
Yeah, it's a critical thing, isn't it? About the front 10 especially. That is just the epitome of this particular season. SCI always seem to be on that left side of the board, but then ETA always end up having a driver that's in there, but then a driver that's not, and that's where they've been losing the points. Shame about the DNFs for TRT and AMS last time out as well, with Lucas down in P17. It's not a big points haul for them. Same with Tetem Restek, who have had a bit of a poor season, to say the least. Angry Sharks up and down the field, and FRT looking to try and find some form once again.
So that now sets us up to the championship positions, where Shazoo Cedars Igniters walk into tonight with a 37-point lead at the top of the championship. Any finish for either of their cars inside of the top 4 gets the job done tonight, or if they can score 19 championship points, that is all they need to go and be crowned champions of this one. For ET8, They know that the job is a lot more difficult, and ideally, they're going to need every point they can get their hands on. In the battle for third, AMR leapfrog ahead of RSC late. They've now got a 7-point lead over RSC, with Ventari in a big scrap right now with the Future Racing team. But news hot off the press, both the Ventari cars will have a qualifying ban. 6 cars are going to be out in qualifying, which will mean 1 car who will not qualify will be a lucky lap to get into Q2.
Yeah, and the critical thing for that is Future Racing Team relegated down to P6 as a result of the last race last time out, and as a result down to 198 in 6th place, and only the 7 points difference between them and Ventari offers them an opportunity to try and get back on the left side of the board, because when it comes to the monetary value for those positions, every point is certainly going to count, especially with only 7 points in it.
Yep, it's €500 for the winning team, be that SCI or be that ET8. And in the middle of the pack, you're looking at the difference there between 100 or €150. The battle for third and fourth, the €50 difference. And you look down at the bottom here, 8th, 9th, and 10th, €50, €30, and nothing. It's worth noting that Alien Motorsports' entry, effectively, because of what happened at round 1, James, was paid for by TF10, who now no longer function as a sim racing team. So basically, it's a case of Tatum Restech want to be in quids even. We know that whatever happens, Alien Motorsports are in quids even, but could get €30 out of running if they can find 5 championship points more than the Italian-based outfit.
Yeah, only 5 points separating the bottom 2 in the standings as well. So an opportunity for a team to actually earn a little profit, despite the fact they'll be finishing 9th. Tatum Restech will be hoping to at least break even in a championship that has proven to be a little bit of a challenge for them this season.
Has been challenging now. Here are the drivers who will take for the final round of the season. I think it's strongest team available here from SCI. Silo and Volokongan have both been winners this season. ET8 with Alex Marciano, who didn't look too impressive at Suzuka, and then Oxku then is going to be in as well. So I would say ET8 are looking at this as, let's give these drivers an opportunity late on in this season. Otso Zito officially will have run every single round of this championship for AMR. They've also got Aaron Rye. This has been the team they've gone to for the second half of the season. But critically, RSC with Epic Vale has a qualifying ban. Kevin over at the Angry Sharks, qualifying ban. AERT's Gotto with a qualifying ban. And Tatum Restech Samuel Barker with a qualifying ban as well. So that is really going to affect things. I think this is the perfect scenario right now for AMS.
And tell you what, it's also a perfect scenario for FRT as well, because I know David and Dan love the driver circuits in the likes of LaSalle, and David especially might be particularly quick here tonight. So off of the back of a qualifying ban for Max von der Geest and Gav Roche, FRT could get back on the left side of the board. Alex Marciano not in particularly good form, but the problem with ETA is the depth is very shallow at the moment between their drivers, and they're going to find it's going to be particularly challenging to beat the likes of Silo and Volokongan again. Drivers more known for their particularly technical circuits like this one.
Now, let's take a look then at a lap around the LaSalle International Circuit. It is currently still on the calendar for 2026, but we'll see whether it will stay that way out there. But it is truly a wonderful driving circuit out there. Very tough to overtake on, but very, very tough to get correct. After the long turns 1 and 2, you then head to turns 4 and 5. These two 90-degree right-handers taken here in 6th gear by Kevin Schoenberg out there on the qualifying lap. You then got turn 6, this tight hairpin, and the very technical middle sector.
Yeah, it's all about managing to find your sort of pace and making sure you hit those apexes. Kevin nearly losing the apex a little bit, but the car does manage to snap into play as he heads through 8 and 9. Very easy if you get lost around the circuit to actually power through corners a bit too aggressively. Kevin a bit more conservative on the approach through 10 as he heads down towards what is technically turn 11 and then into the treble right-hander of 12, 13 and 14. My favourite corners on this circuit. You can keep it as flat as you like if you get that setup perfect, as you then try to keep it as close as you can. Great overtaking opportunity here if you get it right through 15, and then you head down to the final corner of 16.
Yeah, it's a tyre cruncher through the triple right, but this final corner sets up the end of the lap. A small little wiggle and comfy over the line then for Kevin Zuckerberg to give us an indication of how this race is going to go. And this race is going to be one of the more interesting ones, especially with Q1, because all drivers have to do, set a valid lap, and you're in to Q2. So, qualifying now will get itself underway. They have the opportunity to go and set times with whatever tyre they want. I would look around and say, just save as much tyre as you possibly can. All you've got to do is put a lap time together on the board, and it is going to set for advantage as they go. We know that 6 cars are going to be out here of this Q1, but only 5 will officially be out as it goes. So you set yourself down and note that all of those drivers basically have themselves a qualifying which is pretty good in all reality. You look with AMR Aaron Rai, you don't even need to set a particularly fast lap here, James. It's just a case of basically punch a clean lap, make sure you're between the lines and find yourself over to Q2.
Yeah, that's a critical thing now for these drivers, is that they're going to have those extra sets of soft tyres available to them at a circuit which is, predominantly known for, being a qualifying circuit, one where you try to find every corner, every 10th of a second. Having that extra set of tyres just in case is always going to be a massive benefit. So I wouldn't expect any particularly quick Q1 lap times here, but we may see it in Q2.
Yeah, just waiting there as one of the boards goes corrupted into turn number 1 we go. And so Aaron Rai just looking to gear himself up. They're not really wanting to push too hard, but you still got to push to get the downforce levels down as they focus through turn 3 and now over towards turn number 4. Here in Lusail. Wonderful circuit, known provisionally when it first debuted as a fantastic motorcycle circuit out there. It was one that really showcased all of its prowess. Then through the various MotoGP battles, it became the season opener for a long time as well in terms of the MotoGP sphere. But now through this middle sector at turn 9, then into turn number 10, trying to transfer the weight over and just hold as the car wants to deal with copious amounts of understeer underneath it at the moment. And the focus will be how far are you going to get this run around and keep every single sector happy and working for this time being. We're working with Aaron Rai, and he's just put together a very solid Q1 lap here. There's nothing really to write home about here about this attempt. He's just kept it on the straight and narrow. All you need to do, thank you very and much, a 125.2.
Yeah, obviously well down the field of what we would expect, because people are going to be using inters and wets for this Q1 session, considering that there is plenty of opportunity to keep a set of soft tyres at this point in time. Further point actually about this circuit as well, I believe it was the first ever night race as well for the MotoGP in 2008. So certainly, you know, long before we ended up having all of the intense night races that we had in the Formula One sphere, MotoGP was absolutely raving about it themselves. I think they actually had permanent floodlighting in 2007. Anyway, boring facts for you. As we just keep an eye on David here, he's going to be one I'm going to be keeping a very firm eye on in this race here. He is a person, a driver that really likes the technical circuits. We won't expect anything extraordinary on an intermediate tyre, but when we get the dry tyres on, sneaking suspicion he's going to be quick tonight.
Yeah, so how quick are you going to be? Silo proving he's got pace, a 124.8. That is more than quick enough then for Q1 that sets itself out. So did note as well, take some rest at Kareem, then having to drop out of the server, and is going to have to need to get back in again as everyone is making their times. Alex Marciano with a time there. You've got Oxcu as well on a 36.3. Wet tyres on for Oxcu, so obviously still looking to save a set of intermediate tyres on the off chance that it rains in the desert. It does sometimes, but not very often. You get maybe 1 or 2 days a year in and around this region of the world where you get a copious amount of rain. Other times it's pretty much dry and barren here in the desert.
Yeah, so I think we had in the commentary experience when I've been commentating here, there was only one time that we actually had some rainfall on the circuit, and that's because we preset the weather to be intermediate weather. So it's very, very rare, as you would expect in the middle of the desert.
And so into pits then, we focus on board, and this will just be to get a little sight on where everything is. Max van der Geest then isn't going to get a time set as it goes. Neither will Gavroche, Kevin, Epic Vale, Gotto, and Sam Barker. Still waiting on drivers like Zinedine Hajjaj to put a time in for RSC, as practically everyone will be happy that they've got their time and effort. AMS Knight and Kareem, the only drivers then that we wait for at this moment to set themselves up and go, you know what? This is going to be the Q2 that we are going to set. So effectively, this will be for them. Just hold the mark, find the line, get yourself then exactly where you need to be, pushing through the left-hand bend then that works through at turn 15 over to finish off the lap then at 16, and getting the drive necessary here on these intermediate tyres that pretty much are screaming out, saying, I don't want to be driving around there. 35.9, that was a very pedestrian Zinedine Hajjaj lap, so that one gets it sorted. Knight now making his way through to sector number 3 and just ticks through it right now. Very notorious, this circuit, for punctures.
Certainly, I've seen a few drivers end up in the really unfortunate situation of trying to extend their stint and getting a horrible puncture at a circuit which obviously being so free-flowing can have a little bit of tyre degradation. Here comes Knight as he comes across the line, goes to P7, it won't matter, he's on an Inter. We'll see Q2 appearing in just a few short moments, but we do have to wait, I believe, on Karim, who's got to settle up.
Yeah, he's still in the pits. He's only just got back into server, so I would say just at the right time before the two cars around him would have retired, and then effectively that would have mired Karim here in Q1 because he's currently in at 17th position. As it stands, it looks like Max van der Geest is going to be the one who's going to move into Q2 as it currently stands. So Ventari will have at least one car that will be jumping into that sphere. But Karim, for the moment, is going to be the focus, as it will be as and when he wants to get out of the pits. He has all the time in the world here, James, to go and set that lap time. It is a luxury for some drivers to have 9 minutes and 40 seconds to set a valid lap to get into Q2. I'd love to have that responsibility.
Yeah, pretty clean situation now for Karim and Tetem Restek in what is a bit of a weird scenario for them in a season that's been particularly weird generally anyway. So hopefully he'll be in his car and he'll be set out shortly because we'll then be able to get very swiftly on into Q2.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to start seeing the first of the real times out there. Crews moving down there at the Aston Martin garage, and they will get themselves out and going. Interesting news, actually, there with Aston Martin, that Adrian Newey is going to step away from the head role, and that's going to be filled by Jonathan Wheatley, who will move away from Audi to jump into that seat. Creates a little bit of an easier time for the team as a whole, but ultimately you look at what Tatum Restek are doing, trying to represent this Aston Martin, and they are now looking to try and get a good Q2 with Karim, and Karim basically has the job of fending off everybody else in this one, especially Alien Motorsport, with both Misha and also Knight both finding times that get them up the order. It's a case of, I've got to cover 2 cars with my 1-car effort.
All he doesn't really need to do is just drive around the circuit and not really push. He can set, a 140. He'll still qualify for the next round if he wants to. So he just needs to, just keep it nice and cool and nice and easy. But yeah, going off of that point about what's happening with Aston Martin at the moment, doesn't surprise me that Adrian Newey has decided to step down. He's more known for his technical ability, not his team management ability. So I did have a little bit of a raised eyebrow when he was announced as the TP for Aston Martin. But in the end, I think they're making the right call, and we'll see what they can do in the 2026 season as we can follow Karim and hopefully Tatum Restek also improving for the upcoming 2026 season.
And on top of that, Audi, for example, Christian Horner's only got 1 more month of garden leave.
I don't think he'll go Audi bound personally. I think, if anything, it would be a bit controversy would be pretty strong at Audi. As a team, remember, that he's just wanted to get their foundations laid down, and they're having a decent season so far. So the last thing they need to do is put themselves under any unnecessary pressure with any kind of controversy, especially considering the nature of his Red Bull exit.
Blasting towards turn 4 is Tatum Restek, Karim here, and now trying to work through turn 5. We go on board, the floodlights everywhere illuminating this circuit right now in Qatar, and pushing out then of turn 6 and up towards turn 7 on circuit. And so you're looking to try and maximize these long corners here, this right into the left then, which sets up, and this big flick right of turn number 9 and then into turn number 10. And so that is going to set itself up for the second half of the lap, over to 11 out there and trying to navigate through the next stages. This is a very nice lap, and of course, if the lap doesn't go the way they want to, they've got 6 minutes to go and set another one.
Yeah, I think they don't want to have that level of embarrassment, considering that he is literally the last driver on the field at the moment here. So he took the car through the right-hander, and again, it looked to me as if he was getting a bucket of understeer, so he wasn't trying his hardest. He comes across the line, sets a 26-1, puts them comfortably through alongside the rest of the field. So he will now go to the pits, retire the car, and we'll have an extra 5 minutes to return and just relax a little bit here, Jake.
Yep, so as far as it goes, Samuel Barker, Gotto, Epic Vale, Gavroche and Kevin are going to be out here in Q1. Max van der Geest will get to Q2, but of course with a retired car from the session, so effectively will mire himself in 15th with that effort. So ultimately here as well, because I think Karim is going to be the last car in server as well for Q1, everyone else is retired, I think it will automatically advance. So we're going to be a little bit quicker here in Q1, which will get the drivers chomping at the bit here for Q2.
Yes, it just gives us a chance to just appreciate Karim returning his car to the grid, returning to the pits rather, so then we could get on with Q2. Opportunity now for drivers to strap on a set of soft tyres and have an extra set of softs as well if they plan to use them in the race. I doubt it, It's a very high deck circuit, so my sneaky suspicion is that we're going to see a few more sets of new boots throughout this qualifying now, and that will offer a little bit of a question mark into strategy, especially for those in the midfield looking to get through to Q3.
Through the final corner and over to the right to jump down into pit lane, and so hits the marks and will look to retire the car. That will be the end of Q1. Processional and pretty much formational for all of those drivers involved, knowing all they had to do was set a lap to get themselves into this Q2 session. So they know that 5 cars will be lopped off of the bottom of the list. And those cars then will soon be ticking over, as I'm not sure if we're going to get the list or not before Q2. But stay with us here with Velocity Ultimate Masters. Q2 will line up 4 cars to get rid of from this point on. Q2 then underway, and drivers now with effectively 3 less minutes on the clock, from 18 down to 15, to get themselves into the top 10. But now they're going to be a bit more aggressive out there with their laps and finding what they need. Fedamori, for example, out there on a set of brand new soft compound tyres and looking to go out there and be aggressive on this outlap, leading to a flying lap out there. James, it is currently here today, the start of March Madness in the NCAA. And will March Madness find its way here into racing like this? Everyone's looking to be as quick as possible, and someone's going to look to upset the odds and basically be a bracket breaker.
I'm going to keep a very firm eye on Caden, by the way, because he's left himself very little room in behind Fedamori at the moment as well, the lonely AERT driver for this event here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he manages both the nice clean air as he heads around these corners, but then the bucket of dirty air that the McLaren Mercedes is going to be chucking out the back of that car.
Yeah, there will be a huge amount of turbulence, and so you worry that you are going to struggle through some corners here, that there'll be some scrubbing that makes life difficult through turn 7. And now looking through this fast right-hand bend that will come along, flick down the gear to 6, uses all the curve very early across to maximise the turn in there of turn 10. You really get a sense of the speed and the pace that's got. And also it is worth talking about the fact that drivers will be looking at their licence points. Vantari going over 7 licence points, taking the position of a double DNF in qualifying, essentially. But you also turn around, James, and say, if a team goes over a threshold, 4 penalty points, 7 or 10 tonight, they are going to take a 5, 10 and 15 point deduction from their points, respectively. Otto Zito, fastest at the moment, 120.4.
Yeah, got to keep it clean here tonight as well at a circuit which is not really known for its overtaking. So they've got to make sure that if they are going to go for those rash moves, going to make, a little bit of a brave one down the inside, maybe of one, maybe of, I'm thinking maybe also turn 10 or maybe turn 15. You'll want to try and make sure that you keep it as clean as possible. Silo comes across the line, no surprises, beating up Zito by well over 0.2 of a second and goes fastest.
Yep, so a very comfortable lap by Silo in the low 120s out there. Alex Marciano back to pits then, and isn't going to be able to get a second lap out there to challenge then from the initial state. Still waiting on the likes of Aaron Wright for a time. Volokongan will be another one to keep note of. Kareem is going to be hoping to go forward with it. And because of what happened in Q1 here, James, this track has hardly had any running at all on it, which is weird to get into a Q2 like this.
Yeah, and that may mean that the track is a little bit greener than these drivers will anticipate. I would have expected us to already be into the high 19s at this point, and that's probably just as a result of us not really using this track in Q1. Of course, people just using an inter or a wet tyre to set the first laps, with obviously the bottom 6 already decided due to qualifying bans. Zinedine Hijaj is going to be the next person to come across the line to set somewhat of a representative lap time. RSC looking to try and get back into the top 3 if they can, with him coming across the line. Only goes P5 though, 0.2 down on Osco.
Well, that's fine at the moment, so I wouldn't be too concerned with that. 120.7 currently, 21 flat is what won't get you in, and you're going to have to rely on someone of Knight, Caden, David and Fedamori jumping up and down as well, you can say too. So I would turn around and think about, okay, a 0.7, you might need to go out once more just to be extra safe at this point. Kareem working through now in towards the left-hander, then getting drive off the exit then of turn 6. We'll have the RSC Mercedes just pull out of the way, and so now we'll get free track, free license to attack this middle sector, and we'll be looking around and seeing, well, how good is it going to be compared to some of my rivals. Tatum Restek would love a car in Q3.
Yeah, first sector didn't look particularly sharp, though. Definitely a bucket of understeer throughout here. We'll see how his third sector is through. The treble right-hander is relatively clean. I think a little bit more conservative, though, from Karim as he now approaches the penultimate corner of 15 into 16. He'll want to try and make sure throughout this one DRS zone he has as much pace as he can, and he's completely mugged us off. He's going into the pits.
Well, obviously, that lap didn't work the way it was intended, and no point to set a lap if it's not going to put you where you need to on the board. So it's going to jump that back down into pit lane, is going to take that service and think about how to move on up. Aaron Rai, Volokongan and Misha are all on out laps, so they are now going to move on to a flying lap here with Aaron Rai. DRS flap wide open. The prime place to get a move today is into turn number 1. Very aggressive turn in, only to 4th gear. So it's not as big of a braking zone as people tend to think it is.
Yeah, very happy to take a lot of curb though, Aaron, on this one here. It's a slightly higher, maybe ride height on that Ferrari, which is a little bit unusual because at a driver circuit like this one, you'll want to have the ride height quite low, actually. As he chicks the car through the left-hander, don't look at that purple sector and take it as gospel, because when you haven't set a lap time, that can be a glitch. Heading through turn number 7, though, and the car just starting a little bit on the rear to look a little bit unstable, but it looks like Aaron's got it covered.
Yep, so covering quite nicely now, working through the long turn 11 here, which is flat out as a corner to set yourself up for 12, 13 and 14. And so he's getting that drive. You're trying to use reference markers around this section for how early you need to make this turn. And so this is looking flush in terms of a lap right now for Aaron Rai, looking towards that final corner. AMR know that they are in a big scrap out there with RSC. They've just taken the initiative out there, and the push to the line second on a 120.2. That will be comfortable to get into Q3 with.
Yeah, I thought he might have actually been able to snag pole, well, first place rather, out of Silo's hands, but that final corner, he had a bucket of understeer through the car. Probably the tyres screaming at him, saying, I haven't got enough grip now, I'm overheating as a result, and he's just lost a few hundredths of a second, which means he's P2. But AMR, very happy at the moment with the outfit, as they're only separated by, what's that, about 10th and a half, separated, in fact, it's just a little bit over 10th and a half between Otzazito and Aaron Rai. That offers them a good opportunity for them to work with each other, as are ET8 at the moment, 4th and 5th respectively. Where's Volakongan at the moment? Still on a lap.
Yep, Caden has moved up 6th fastest there for AERT. They're still in that battle at the bottom as Misha goes 6th for Alien on a 120.5. There is Volakongan, who goes 3rd fastest, 120.384. And so it is now a case of Shazoo AMR, ETA, ETA. Your top 6 as they go. Kareem now onto a flying lap, the only driver yet to put a time down on the board, and the timer is really ticking already here in this Q2 session. Currently on the bubble is the Future Racing Team. This would be a disaster for FRT if both of them find themselves out in Q2.
I don't think David's lap time is anywhere near what he is capable of being able to do. Dan up with the 120.4 looks particularly strong, as it looks like he's just diving into the pit lane now, if I'm not mistaken, unless that is... No, I believe that one actually might have been David, so he's abandoned his lap entirely. I'm very shocked with David at the moment. That 20.8 is much, much lower than what I'd expect, and to be honest with you, I think he's started to struggle a little bit, which again, very uncharacteristic of him, especially a circuit like this.
Yeah, and so the characteristic of what you are finding here, how it suits compared to how it doesn't between one team or another, one driver and another, you're just trying to hold steady and hope that you can luck into that form, or you can lock into that form. So I think if you want to set yourself up as a form getter for this final round of the championship, there is a case of the go-home vibe where it's going to be very difficult. 120.5 there from Kareem. That's good enough for 9th only. Suddenly I turn around and think, 0.4, is that safe?
Not so sure, you know, because I think ET8 will be a little bit uneasy at the moment with their Oscar down in P7 now, and Misha looking decent actually with the 120.55. Would love to get AMS at least one of their drivers into Q3, because it's a grand opportunity with 6 drivers serving the qualifying ban tonight. No surprises, Silo's retired from the session. I'd expect Aaron and Otzazito and Volakongan to do the same. Dan will probably look over his shoulder alongside Marciano, but I would expect 7th downwards to be having another go at this.
Well, they need to have another crack. 3.5 minutes then to get themselves ready. Just an 80-second lap, so in theory you can get out of the pits with about 140 left on the clock, and you can comfortably keep the tyres in range and go out, set an outlap, and then you'll just have one flyer to go. Zinedine Hajjaj on the outside looking in at the moment here for RSC. Needs a good time to jump up with. That's better. 5th place, 120.395. That looks like it could get him home and dry.
Yeah, not a bad lap there from Hijaj. Puts himself in front of Dan, who will, again, I did say he'd be looking over his shoulder alongside Marciano. Oscar is on a slow lap, so don't think that he is, doing anything weird other than perhaps just navigating around the circuit. But he is cooling down the tyres if he is going for another lap, so it'll be worth keeping an eye on that one. David on an out lap now. It looks like FRT have set David out a little bit earlier than they usually would. Probably David giving the feedback to the team that the Haas doesn't feel comfortable, and he just needs that little extra time just in case the first attempt is not to perfection.
So there is the most aggressive weave in all of esports that we're seeing right now. You don't get much more of a weave than that. And Oshku is then looking for that surface temperature in the tyre, looking to gear it up and really go for it. The wiggle on the curb, though, is going to be a little bit tough to get the lap time that is necessary. I'll take a good look here at this Sector 1. And if that Sector 1 is absolutely nowhere, I think you're going to have to turn around and go, what on earth is Okshu doing?
Yeah, don't continue this lap. Abandon it now if I were him, because you want to try and maintain the tyres. You have got a little bit of time to have another go at this one, but that turn one, last corner, looked precarious, and then turn one again getting some snaps in, and it looks like to the back of the... is he still going? I wonder.
He's
I'm looking
up.
at that one. He is up, though, but I think there's more time left on the table for him.
So he's up a tenth and a half almost in that first sector, which would put him on a low 0.4 as it currently stands. So whatever he found worked for that opening sector, even with a couple of small mistakes. Fighting the grip there through the middle of turn 10, leading over towards 11 as other drivers now with a minute looking to gear up their time. Working through turns 12, 13, get a little break before turn 14, which often breaks the rhythm as you go through. You're not expecting it to be a case of 1, 2, hold and 3, but for the moment, Oshku hoping to find time. Counter correction through the final corner, keeps it within the lines then as he will push over for it, and that a 0.362, good enough for fourth.
Still think he had at least another tenth and a half in him, to be honest with you, but that first sector just did not look comfortable. Perhaps his tyres a little bit too cold in the first sector. Of course, he's been able to make up for it with a cracking third sector as a result, because his tyres, of course, won't be as warm at the start, but will therefore be colder towards the end. David on a lap at the moment, looking to try and at least get both of their drivers through. Ideally needs to get into the top 5, does David, to have any kind of confidence in this particular circuit. Sector 2 looking okay.
Okay is only okay right now. Kareem on the bubble. Misha still in the pits. We'll have to watch and wait on a 120.5 to see if the Alien Motorsports Williams is going to make it into Q3. Here's the checkered flag and over the line. Good from David. Goes 7th. 120.420. That's a good job. Knight is going to be out here in Q2, so that's going to really hurt. Alex Marciano puts himself away from the bubble then as Aaron Rye went out for one more go, puts a 120 flat down on the board and says thank you very much. AERT's Caden then to put Misha down. Does 120.514, but he's not fully safe. He's on the bubble with Kareem and Fedamori still to go. David is safe. He'll get himself then into Q3, depending on what Dan does here, because Dan could be the one quantum of solace. He needs 1,000th of a second to put himself in a very comfortable position here to know that one of the future racing team Haas's is going to be in Q3. There's the push over the line. More than safe then in fourth on a 0.2. There goes Fedamori over the line. He invalidates the lap, which leaves Kareem to knock out Caden, potentially over the line. Yes! On a 120.4. He steals the march. AERT and Alien are mired in Q2, and Tatum Restec, when they've needed a car up there, have one in Q3.
Yeah, Kareem and the rest of the team at Tatum will be absolutely celebrating that one, because that gives them the one up on AMS now, with them at least into the top 10. And that will, of course, give them every hope that they're going to be able to get their money back at the end of this championship. These P10.
That's a big P10 as well. So confirmation that both of the cars then from ETA and Shazoo have made it. Both from AMR are in. And then, of course, you've got one Tatum Restec. You have both of the Haas's in then over from the Future Racing team. And then, of course, Zinedine Hajjaj, who is in there too from RSC. Q3 on the other side of this, the battle for pole will heat up.
of the pace of the likes of Silo. It's just going to be about making sure that he can at least get on the podium and do what he's been doing all the way through this season to just guarantee Shazoo's next championship.
Well, Shazoo have to make sure that they get the job done here today. No controversy, no worries. Just find yourself then with as much calm as you possibly can. They sit in a position as well here, James. They started the championship with a 10-point deduction for late submission. So as far as it goes, a late submission of their roster to begin. They've been on the back foot from the very beginning. It's taken them till round 8 to get any form of momentum seismically to get a big gap in this championship.
The critical thing for them is it didn't even matter. It's very uncharacteristic of the likes of Shazoo to have any kind of administrative errors. They're usually a lot more clean and consistent with that element of it, but on that occasion end up falling short. But nonetheless, it won't even matter when you've got such a diverse and intense roster with people who really do care about being the fastest in F1 console.
Yep, so how quick are you going to need to be out there, and how are you going to prove that you are on top compared to everybody else? That's what Silo's been trying to do. 5 wins out of 6 in starts here in this series. The only driver to have beaten him when he's turned up just so happens to be in the red Ferrari. Aaron Rye was that driver who found that result and managed to make that work. So that's worth noting here, that there are some very quick drivers who are starting to find form right now at this phase of the cycle. An elongated cycle with no 26 game inside. That's wide there from Silo. He'll invalidate the lap. It's very rare we get to see him over push through a corner. So I'm shocked to see that he's got one lap that he's basically had to back out of here. So it will be Oshku with the first time, a 120.5. Nothing really to write home, but Aaron Rye into the 19s.
That's exactly what I'd be expecting now, but one would think that these might be used tyres at the moment. They don't want to use up all of their tyres. If there's a late safety car, maybe Karim getting a bucket of oversteer, managing to hold it, I think, going through turn 10, as we've also got Tomasiano entering into the pit lane, abandoning his lap. Volakongan, the sole Shazoo runner then in this particular session, in terms of, well, this particular part of the session, rather, is going to be setting a representative lap time, as we've got Zinedine Hijaj making his way through the treble right-hander of 12, 13 and 14.
Yep, so Zinedine needing as much for RSC as possible with Epic Veil all the way down, knowing that in the scrap here today with AMR, the fact they are 1 and 2, they are fighting against the weight of the world. There is Hajaj, third, good time, 120.2. So that's in the wheelhouse, and that's critical. Volakongan, though, will jump up and get to third position. So is going to be setting up happy as it goes. Kareem here in 7th position. Anything above 10th place is going to be a positive out there for him, as Dan now works in towards the final corner.
Dan has been the consistently faster driver between the Future Racing Team pairing here tonight. He's invalidated his lap after just track extending, I believe, at turn 8. So that's the end of that particular lap. Karim also on an invalid lap as well, so no lap time to make note of between them as well. We're in a very weird, a very precarious position here, Jake. I've seen Silo going into the pit lane without a lap time on the board. There's not much time left at all in this part of qualifying, about 6.5 minutes. This is an uncharacteristic position here for Silo at a critical point for Shazoo here. They could be crowned champions tonight, and their fastest driver hasn't got a lap time on the board in Q3.
Yeah, I've also just proven that I can very easily get lost around this place, seeing as I've just called turn 7 the final corner out there on the track. But at least at this point, Alex Marciano in 8th place will be also looking at Silo going, that's a driver who should have a lap time on the board, should be able to jump up. And so you're thinking about, okay, what if drivers aren't pushing? What if drivers aren't getting what they want out of this lap? You can only drive what's there in front of you. And I think it's scarier having a Silo without a lap than it is having a Silo who's already set a benchmark, because you don't know how quick that pace is going to be from him.
Yeah, don't worry about getting lost around this circuit. If you want a little fun fact for you, when I was going on a time trial, I kept braking at turn 8, which is a straight. Make a note of that one. Dan is going to be in the entering into the pit lane, I think, imminently in this one. But Marciano is on an outlap, and the ET8 man will now go down towards the start-finishing line and try to set something a bit closer than maybe the likes of Volokongan than his teammate Oscar at the moment.
So he needs a good time to jump up. They know that they need to be at the best they can, 1-2. And of course, they've got to find a way to pole position because their job gets harder. If they can't get the bonus point for pole, it will mean that there'll only be 19 points needed then for a team like SCI. If SCI take pole position, well, it's a 2-point swing effectively. They'll need 18 points from that race, which will mean any car in the top 5. Shows you the critical nature here of what you're seeing from ET8. And this really, right now for them, seeing drivers like Osku only in for the first time for this final round, Alex Marciano just his second start. This is showing the lack of depth, and maybe they needed to bleed these drivers in a bit more over the season.
Just keeping an eye out on Marciano at the moment as well. He's getting some very weird sort of turning motifs at the moment. It looks like the car will turn in fine at the start of the corner, but then he's getting a bit of mid-corner understeer. So I'm wondering if he's just taking the corners just a little bit too quickly, perhaps overdriving the car a little bit, knowing that he needs to get somewhere near Volokongan's pace at the moment. If he could get to the 120.2s, he'll have some personal confidence in this one as he comes across the line right now, and he goes even faster than that, 120.1, and goes above Volokongan into P3.
Yeah, here's the issue, though. Got to get around, got to get back to pits, got to get a fresh set of tyres on, got to get out one more time. Very tough out there. Silo now looking to make his progress as he heads into the long second sector here. Through turn 7 now as he will look through this gravel paradise to turn 8 and turn 9. This jutting right-hander before then setting up for turn 10. Look at how the car fights for the grip there, understeering through the corner with such an early turn-in entry here from Silo. Now to turn 12, and you just got to run the tightrope here for 13. Straighten out the steering, now find your mark. 14, hits perfectly. Now here for 15, the left-hander. This is where he invalidated the lap before.
Nice.
Perfect this time as he works on through. Silo looking at a 99 as the target he needs to beat. 15 and 16 and into pits again. He's going to be down for 1 lap only.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. He locked into 6 and he ended up losing a bit of the front end as a result, and that's what committed to the understeer in the second sector. A 56.4 in the second sector is actually just okay for his kind of standard.
Yeah, okay though, isn't going to pay the bills, but today they've afforded okay. If it's not perfect, it's not going to matter as much. And James, that's what they've got to get out of the mindset of. They don't need to be thinking about winning. If they're just thinking of winning, they're going to lose the championship. They need to be Prostian about it. Don't think about what you can get, think about what you need.
I'm wondering if we're starting to feel a little bit of pressure on Silo at the moment here, because he knows that if this was any other race in the Ultimate Masters, I think he'd just be sort of shrugging it off and getting on with it. But the fact that he's made now another couple of mistakes in Q3, knowing that he's the faster driver, it's not all entirely on him to try and win the championship here for the Suzuki Igniters. But Volokongan on the brink in P4 at the moment means that it's not all said and done if they keep up with this particular kind of pace. So, yeah, pressure on Silo a little bit here.
Well, pressure on Oshku, pressure on Alex Marciano as well. They've got to go out and drive well here. Kareem on an outlap in 8th place is yet to set a time that is representative out there, knowing that Oshku's on a 0.5, that David is on a 0.6. You'll feel like they'll want to try and get through, jump up and do what they can. A minute 42 remaining on the clock, and so you're now looking at where you are going out. The last car out on circuit will be Alex Marciano, and he is leaving it very late with just a minute 31 as he exited pit lane to get around and get a lap in. There'll be about 5 seconds left when the checkered flag falls for him to go and set one more lap.
So, critical stuff here for Karim as well. If he can try and get at least above the top 10, this gives him a really good opportunity, because I think David as well really down the order with that 20.6, and Dan also under a little bit of pressure as well. So if TRT can capitalise on this one, Karim has got an outside chance of earning some big points here to put that gap between them and AMS.
So, find the way to get the lap here through turn 1. Looks good. Big amount of curb there for turn 2. Just straightening out the steering nicely off of the exit. Now through 3. Comfortable. Looking over towards turn number 4. Pushes out to the right-hand side and needing to get this together. You can see the sparks flying off of the under tray here, heading into turn number 4. 29.6 for sector 1.
Not bad, but not great, to be honest with you, for Karim. A couple of buckets of understeer, especially through 2. I thought the car looked to be a little bit unsteady on throttle, especially through 4.
Yep, so needing to have the confidence, and maybe it's starting to fall away. Very shallow line going into turn number 10. And this is where the time, I think, starting to bleed from Karim and Tatum Restek here. Looking at this third sector, hoping that the time is going to be good enough to be off of 8th place and up a bit more. Checkered flag out. Everybody is out there then on their last attempts of qualifying and fighting for the final corner now. Goes Tatum Restek's Karim. What's this going to be heading to the line? 120.3, good enough for 6th at the moment. Invalidated for Zinedine Hajjaj, so won't go better than 5th. Aaron Rai will be next. How high will he raise the bar through the final corner? He's already on a 99. Can he find a 0.8? And can he do so? Yes, 83.4 is what he gets. And now the focus will be to Volokongan in second, only for a moment. Otso Zito gets it to a 1-2 right now for AMR. David, only 6th with that attempt. Here comes Dan over to the line. 9th, he will stay maroon. But Silo, hey, with only 1 lap, steals it. 119.796. Ever in doubt? He's Silo for a reason. And now Oshku will look at 1 last lap. And so too, Alex Marciano. They need to get as high up as they possibly can. Drive for the line. Oshku goes third. What about Marciano? Gotta be a front 2-row position. Crosses the line then, and we'll look at it and go, not quite good enough there. But what a time from Silo. That reminded me of old Sebastian Vettel laps there of the early 2010s. 1 lap, 1 opportunity.
38 thousandths of a second as well. I think if Silo had a little bit more confidence in him, he'd have found himself a little bit more than 38 thousandths of a second. That is close from our fastest man on console.
What a lap. Aaron Rai alongside on the front row. Oshku then and Alex Marciano 3rd and 5th for this run. And Kristi Volokongan starting in 6th position for the final round of the season. And we'll get a look at the starting grid in just a few moments. We'll be right back. Grid set then here at Lusail International Circuit with 6 drivers forced to abandon their qualifying attempts through qualifying bans through penalty points. It puts Samuel Barker and Tatum Restek at the back with Gotto for All Elite Racing Team. RSC's Epic Vale will have to go from 18th position with Ventari's Gavroche in 17th. Over then to the rows of 8 and 7, where Kevin and Max van der Geest will find themselves nearer the back, as the first times were set by Knight in Q2, finding himself out with Fedamori there, meaning that the Sharks are in the second half of the grid. Over to the middle rows of 6 and 5, where Misha and Caden find themselves, as Dan will be lining up in 10th, and Tatum Restek's Kareem from P number 9. 8th and 7th worth a bit of note, because that is David and Zinedine Hajjaj, as Volokongan will start this one in 6th, and Alex Marciano for ET8 in 5th. Leaves the front 2 rows then open. Otso Zito and Aaron Rai will have the dirtier side of the circuit, the right-hand side, but critically for Oshku for ET8 and Silo, we're in championship mode now for this running. And critically on this for Silo, a must-make pole. And James, you said to me just off air, that could be the lap that gets the championship done. Silo only had 1 lap to set in Q3, and he only went and got it.
Yeah, 38 thousandths of a second, mind, and it shows Aaron Rai is definitely all over the back at the moment of Silo, but nonetheless, that might have just been the lap that wins Shazoo the title, but they've got to convert it.
Yep, there are no guarantees, of course. They've only needing to score a full 18 championship points now. Anywhere in the top 5 will get it done, as the lights are off and we are racing here from this circuit. And now as they work into turn number 1 here at Lusail, Silo gets the launch that he wants. Aaron Rai trying to hang Oshku out for a bit of company. They'll now try and scrabble through turn 2 and try and sort themselves out. Otso Zito looking to make moves here in 4th position. Volokongan quite comfortable back there in 6th, but a perfect start for Silo. He's got the gap.
Yeah, just able to put a bit of a distance between him as well. Lots of Zito really just trying to hold on to P4 at the moment, with Marciano having a really good start as well, as he tries to put that pressure on to get near his teammate Oscar in P3.
Yeah, so that's going to be really important here, that you're trying to give yourself as much platform as you can. AMR might be playing spoiler out there. Kevin has gone straight to the back. 1 or 2 stop. Looks like it could be the day here today. I'd be interested to see what tyres everyone has gone on with to start. Mediums are there and available then for Silo. So it's a case of half and halving here.
Interestingly, FRT have elected to go for the hard tyre across the board, so they're elected to extend their stint a little bit later than everyone else.
Yep, so if they're able to extend that stint and they can be happy with that extension, they can be very happy. DRS enabled, Silo 0.6 of a second down the road. Look at the middle of the pack here, and this could be a move for Gavroche, trying to get by Misha here for 12th. Now, Alien Motorsport will be looking at their platform thinking, this is very good. So, and there's the contact for Gavroche. He lunged into turn 1, big slam behind there for Fedamori. That's damaged the front wing.
Oh, Fedamori on a hard tyre as well, so that stint is now completely done for. So he's going to have to commit to the 2-stop if he wants to get that front wing change. Very disappointing stuff for those in the midfield as well, as Ventauri are looking to try and at least do some kind of damage limitation to stay on the left side of the board. But with future racing teammate The Knight from the opposite tyre, it's an opportunity for them to potentially claw P5.
Yeah, they're going to be looking at what they can do to get P5. Zinedine Hajjaj has had not the greatest start. He's down to 11th position. Epic Vale is in 18th position, and so they're up against 2nd and 4th. I think they're going to be mired here at 4th position out there in the championship. As things go, you note as well that Ventauri are trying to get what they can to hold the future racing team. That 8th and 9th at the moment is certainly looming large here. Those 7 points difference between them will make a big difference. A little wide there from Kareem. He's got to be careful about that he doesn't pick up time penalty.
Yeah, Karim getting a bucket of, I think, dirty air, to be honest with you, off of the back of Dan's car at turn 14, meant that he was spat out wide. He'll take a warning for that one, as he'll take the toe down towards turn 1, but with everyone in a little bit of a DRS train from first down all the way to the back of the grid. No expectation for any immediate overtakes, though Aaron Rye started to get a little bit close to Silo now, managed to find around about up to a tenth and a half, going through to turn 1, though, of course, with the dirty air effect, he's now back to about half a second.
Yeah, so you get close on the main straight, and then the dirty air takes that time away from you. So you've got to really drive harder up underneath the car in front to go and get yourself that chance to get back. So that's what Aaron Rye will be having to play with at this moment. But the group very happily set at the moment. First through to 7th right now. Caden having a wonderful day for All Elite. This is exactly what they wanted to consolidate their 8th place.
Otto not having a bad race at the moment. Of course, remember serving a qualifying ban down in P15, so an opportunity for him to start to make some inroads if he can, while everyone else on the hard tyre up 4 positions starting from P19. Caden doing exactly the same thing, so both of the ART drivers having a really good start to this race, while Kevin, on the other hand, already the recipient of a 3-second penalty on lap 3 of 29.
Yep, so already for Kevin, he would have had a massive hit, and that's going to cause troubles, and so too Epic Vale. It's going to get 3 seconds as well, so their penalties, they're going to be picked up thick and fast. We're only on lap 3, so that's going to be troublesome. There's your biggest movers and shakers. Caden up 4, Gavroche up 4, Gotto as well, up 4 spots as well. As it stands here, as they're speeding for Epic Vale, he will retire the car, so everyone's going to score points from this point onwards.
That's disappointing. That RSC will be hoping that they'll be able to try and put at least some kind of competition in for the battle for P3, but with Epic Vale now retiring from this race, they're going to have to put all the eggs in the Zinedine Hijaj basket.
Yeah, so he's going to need, I would say, a modern miracle to do something about AMR, who are 2nd and 4th and very comfortable with their placements out there at this moment. Focus with Gavroche here in the middle of the pack here on lap 4 of 29. So trying to set up and say this is going to be the race of where am I going to find that time? Where am I going to open this up? And I would be also keeping a very close eye on how aggressive you are being early on in this race. I think when you sit down in the pack, you can have a chance to really sit back, not necessarily relax, but try and temper the measure of this race that you're looking at here. Silo with 0.6 of a second over Aaron Rye. He knows that he's in the place where he has been all season long. The front, it's his home. He knows how good he drives from the front. Aaron Rye here in 2nd, though, wants to, although not fighting for a championship here today, James, he wants to prove that Silo's not going to have a stroll over everyone. He wants to prove here, does Aaron Rye, he's better than him on console.
It's not the only track, actually, that Aaron Rye's been keeping Silo on as even, so this is suggesting Aaron's personal pace at the moment is actually somewhat comparable with the likes of Silo, which is obviously going to allow AMR a certain, I don't know, a little bit of flavorness maybe going into the next cycle for what will possibly be the last time in the Velocity Ultimate Masters that we'll be seeing this generation of F1 car. Either way, plenty of electrical energy still in the Renault power unit of Silo's car. Again, the last time we'll be seeing that one potentially as well.
Yeah, that too. Of course, they'll move over to a Mercedes engine on that next push of the cycle. So that for the 2026 cars will be critical. Here is then Aaron Rye still focusing. Fedamori now with 3 seconds. So that's both the sharks now swimming with the fishes, so to speak, at this moment. And so now you're looking at where the brakes are in the group. Very nearly 1 second for David Lost out there, and it is over a second right now for Karim. That will leave him vulnerable to Zinedine Hajjaj out there, as the medium tyre might already here on lap 6 be struggling, and you can see it there with the wiggle here around Lusail, struggling to find that time. Dan on the hard with the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, and here comes the overtake then. Zinedine Hijaj going up to P10. So Karim really starting to struggle already on these tyres now. He started on that medium tyre, did Karim, but unfortunately getting a bucket of understeer through the final corner. He then gave it a bootful to try and compensate, lost the rear slightly, and then lost that position down to P11 he is.
Yep, so to 11th, and now just looking to try and manage this with Misha as the next car behind. Caden on screen looking to try and give Volokongan something to think about. And Volokongan here knows sixth doesn't get the job done on your own. But what it does is it puts a case of, if something happens to Silo, I'm in the position where I can be in fifth, and I've got the points then to go and get the championship. This is wonderful work then from SCI.
This has very much been the epitome of the problem for ET8, though, hasn't it? Because they've got the pace to be in there, third and fifth respectively, but their general pace is just that too much comparable of their Spanish co-compatriots at AMR being in second and fourth, and that's where they've been losing the points, because they can't find the pace to be faster than AMR and then put any kind of challenge on SCI, albeit with Volokongan in P6. Expect him to slowly make his way up the standings, and SCI's big brains when it comes to their race strategy may end up allowing Volokongan to make some inroads when it comes to the pit stops, as it looks like FRT are switching positions, as Dan will now overtake the position against David.
Dan will be the man as he makes the move then. An easy one on the front stretch here on lap 7 of 29. Burning through the hard tyre and using it quite nicely at this point. And they're having to make that move because they are just outside of a second at the moment. And they're working with Dan, who pulls it to 9/10 here. To all elites Caden there in 7th place. So they've done the job that they need to. They've managed to stave that gap and start whittling it down, and now they can focus on the next phase of this race, which is staying within that front group, using the toe to advantage, and then trying to claw themselves back in with that guard that they need. What will be very interesting as well here, James, who undercuts?
Yeah, undercutting is going to be the powerful thing here for those on the medium tyres. I expect Karim probably going to be one of the early ones to pit here. He's already 1.7 down on Zinedine Hijaj. I'm keeping a very firm eye on that gap between Dan and Caden. It's on the brink, still around about 9/10 of a second, but look at the amount of electrical energy has been used in that Ferrari power unit in the back of the Haas. It looks like to me that Dan actually might be a little bit of a sitting duck if he can't consider getting a little bit closer to Caden as they approach through into turn 1. Couple of important laps here for Dan, I think.
Yeah, because he's got to get a regen here around this circuit to get the braking energy back in and required. It'll be more important in the next version of cars rather than this one. As we take a look, Misha, big train right now that sits behind. Kareem struggling here for pace. He's going to get the gap opened up through turn 2 and into turn 3. Gavroche looking to go around the outside here. He's clearly managed the tyre a lot better, and it's well held on the inside of turn 4 there. Nice defense from Kareem, but for Gavroche out there at this point, he's realizing that he's got tyre to go and play with here, and whatever's in the setup right now, Tatum Restec, they're just burning through it.
I think Knight will be hoping that Gavroche gets his overtake done soon here, because if Knight can then get the move done on Karim, that results in AMS actually having both of their cars but in front of both of the TRT drivers. And remember, there's only a very small points difference separating the bottom two in the standings here to claim their money back of that €30, well, not we'll call it a jackpot, but €30 winning amount of cash if they can try and get in front of both of the AMS drivers, but Gavroche struggling in the dirty air.
Well, currently it'd be 9 points for Misha, 8 for Kareem, so that's 1 point swing out there of the 4. And then, as in comes Volokongan then, to be the first car in to make the stop. Kareem will follow. It was, at the time, a 3-point difference between Samuel Barker and Knight, which would have meant that they would have gone tied on points, James, and it would have gone to countback.
Yeah, it's going to go all the way to countback, but now with Volokongan down, it's all going to be about what Marciano and Otsozito do here. I wouldn't be surprised if the pair of them decide to cover off that pit stop, but the undercut can be quite powerful around here, but it's all about how good the in and out laps are for the respective drivers in this battle.
So, the best drivers in the world, James, I wonder if you share the same sentiment. They are the best at 3 laps out there compared to anyone else. And that is the out lap, the in lap, and when they're pitting.
Yes, I think Silo is the best example of the in lap, the out lap, and the fast lap in this situation here, but he is in prime position at the moment at the front of the field, but he has got a little bit of piling pressure starting to build now with Aaron Rai around about 0.2 of a second. If hopefully we could go on board with the P2 man, because it's looking like it's getting a little bit precarious for that battle here. A little bit wide Marciano goes, but I think it might be because they're pushing here. I wonder if anyone's going to be pitting now to cover off in that attack. Silo is in, Aaron Wright is in, so SCI committing to the earlier pit stops here. We'll see, though, in this situation, if Aaron Wright is going to get the overcut on Volakongan, or if Volakongan is going to have an outstanding outlap, I wonder.
Oh, and those hard tyres now in play. There is the pit stop done and sorted. They will now look to get the clearance then with the fresh air to go out there and attack. Here is Volakongan, though, along the main straight. Is this going to pull? Then the two Shazoo cars together again. It's going to be close here. There you can see one car on the right-hand side. Aaron Wright, though, critically jumps out ahead, but his tyre is going to be cold. Wiggle there, all through the middle of the corner. This is really opening up the chance to attack now. Volakongan is going to give Aaron Wright something to think about.
Yeah, very mature situation, actually, from Volakongan there, because I certainly would have been extremely immature and gone for the dive, seeing Aaron Wright struggling with that cold tyre, but he's elected to stick behind it. But that is very important. That's a prospective P3. It's a double podium as it stands here. And with Oscu and Otsozito committing to that overcut, SCI pulled an absolute blinder by pitting in one lap earlier.
They have, and so with that, they are now setting themselves up for the second half of this race, knowing that they've got the tyre life that they want. They've got the strategy that they've needed. Get themselves out and away from as many cars as possible. Another 3 for Fedamori. In comes Oscu. Then 1 lap later to make that pit stop. It leaves Otsozito out there alone. We're still waiting for Gavroche to come in. Gotto and Max van der Geest. In comes Gotto.
Yeah, then FRT's Dan David and Zinedine Hejaj for RSC are, of course, going to continue on with their stints alongside Misha as well, because they've, of course, got started on that hard tyre in this race as well. Where is the situation in terms of the other Red Bull? I think we've got Silo now committing to the overtaker, rather, because of there is Oscu. Silo gets the jump. Where is the situation with Oscu? This is where it's going to be important. Oh! Collision between ET8 and the driver at AMR, the two Spanish outfits get into a horrible collision, and that is the very epitome of ET8 season.
It looks just like for Oscu. He can't get any luck. First time in, gets the contact there, and he will look around at a team like what we have just seen there of AMR and say that was not what the doctor ordered. Now you've got to also look at AMR. If they get 2 penalty points from that, or even just the 1 from an incident like that here, James, they're going to get a 10-point deduction.
I'm just having a re-look at that incident, to be honest with you, as well, and I'm very 50-50 about it, if I'm honest with you. I think Aaron went into the corner expecting a bucket of understeer to try and race side by side with Oscu, and then Oscu might have gone in there thinking he wasn't going to get it and may have understeered. So it might be a little bit of 50-50, but they ended up colliding and spinning out as a result. Be interesting to see what the stewards think of that one, though, when we see the onboards.
Yep, it will be very interesting to note. So Aaron Wright now behind Caden, and suddenly it's going to start helping teams like RSC and Zinedine Hejaj out there. Sam Baker up into the top 10. Fedamori coming in then to make a pit stop. This will be for a hard tyre out there for him to go and continue on with here in this race. Noting that Kevin is there in 9th. For the moment. Caden currently in 14th, though, eyeing up how to move on up. He's got Alex Marciano in front. Critical he stays with.
I think the situation report, as well as a result of that collision, means that SCI have got a 1-2 as a result. Marciano will be on the podium, but Caden, what an opportunity for the ART man here. Could be on for a P4, and as it stands so far anyway, the midfield team will be very lucky to hold on to Caden's services, because his general performance and pace at the moment has been fabulous to watch in the second half of this season, and he will be one to keep a very firm eye on if one of the other higher midfield, if what maybe one of the up front teams might want to consider someone of his caliber.
Yeah, definitely a drive to keep in mind. Kevin with penalty. In comes Otsozito then at the end of lap 12 to make his stop. So he can be a little bit more aggressive on that hard tyre as he will make his 1 stop of the race. And so waiting a long time here for going. Yep, he's gone. Fedamori then with another 3 seconds in the back pocket too. But the clearance they're needed here for Otsozito. Where is it going to be by comparison? It's a long pit lane here. Oscu clearly not upset too much. He's got the fastest lap. But where is he going to be? Well, here goes
Not again.
Osku around the outside. Is it going to be the same story all over again? Osku is going to hold inside at turn 2. He's got the coverage.
I think Osku was holding his breath a little bit. He didn't want to have a Groundhog Day moment with the other Ferrari, the other AMR driver in that scenario, but also Zito did not manage to complete the overcut. Undercut worked a treat for Osku by 2 laps. He still tucks in behind Aaron Rye, though, but Caden is the one that's going to be very happy with this situation here because now he's stuck in a DRS train for P4 and theoretically can go to the end of this race. AART, a team down in the standings, an opportunity for some big points here tonight in the final race of this season of Ultimate Masters.
It'll be a huge haul of points this late on that will secure them that 8th place, and they'll also be wondering where on earth has this been for us. So now you're looking at Caden thinking he's going to be in for a big haul out there and get what he wants. In will come Gavroche then to make that stop. The latest of the late stoppers having to do something different is Ventari by the double quali ban and what they've had to navigate through over the course of this race. So they'll be eyeing that up as what they've got next. So this will then become soon a race of those who have started on a hard tyre compared to those who maybe aren't. But now here comes the look from Aaron Rye. Thought about the inside. That's a bit deep in though here from Caden, and this is going to open it up. Long way around. You take the high road, I'll take the low road, and I'll be at turn 3 before you. Aaron Rye, what a pass.
Yeah, still side by side though. He might have the grip around this part of the corner and might be nudged out wide, and that's what's happened. But they'll continue side by side through here. There's a tank slapper, well held though. But in the end, Caden trying to defend it, but he knew that going through turn 1, he got caught out in the mind game with Aaron Rye in that scenario. He lost out, and now he's down to what will be a prospective P5.
Yep, so that will be tough for Caden, but he'll learn that these drivers are the best of the best right now that Console has in F1 25. He'll know that that's the level I've got to be at. That's the level of flawless that I am trying to attain. Aaron Rye, they're now up to 12th position overall in this race and waiting on a handful of drivers to go and make their first stops of this. Now, the next question will be, how aggressive will the medium tyre be compared to the hard late on in this run, as Knight and Misha look like they trade spots with Max van der Geest holding himself out very long. If he can get that medium tyre anywhere to the same level as the hard, does he have any license to go on a soft tyre to the end?
I think what the phrase here is, what is bro cooking at the moment? I'm very surprised Max van der Geest has decided to keep on these medium tyres. Look at the blistering on the front right tyre. It's not looking healthy at the moment. The front left also looking particularly aggressive. Lock up though from Misha in this one. We can see on the brace, just Max van der Geest, no grip whatsoever. So I don't expect a soft tyre, surely, for the Venturi man who's looking to try and stay on the left side of the board. Karim with a 3-second time penalty, capitalising what has been a little bit of a downwards sort of spend at the moment, unfortunately, for the TRT man, as Caden is still, I'm just thinking about it a moment, I'm thinking about Caden, what an opportunity for him now. He's racing with some top tier drivers here, or a great opportunity to learn heading into the next season.
Yeah, and you got to remember, it's a full 9 months before that new season comes into play, so there'll be a lot of racing then from the Ultimate Masters to get yourself ready for that. Max van der Geest then is sitting back there and doing well as they are chopping at the front. Dan and David then looking to exchange it. A big wiggle there from David, and he just has no help on the transfer through turn 1 there. Car looking very unsettled. Zinedine Hajjaj watches on.
I've never seen a car do that before. It looked like it locked up the rears, but also locked up the fronts. It's like he had all 4 tyres, just not sure where he was going. Like his differential had completely failed. So has he got like is his differential maybe set a little bit too low, I wonder? I'm not sure. But either way, David now has to try and recover that time. Now the question is, will FRT tell Dan, slow down, let's lose about 3/10 to try and help your teammate and work together as a team? Or is the team just going to say, Dan, you just need to speed away here, son? And by the looks of things, it's getting close and it's over a second.
Yeah, and so if it's going over a second, you're going to start wondering, am I going to get DRS at the point that I need it? It's just ticked over, but it looks like he's got okay. He hit the line, he got the mark that he needed, and he got the gap down to 0.6 once again. So David, blushes spared compared to Dan, will now have the chance to run away at the best point possible here. And so Zinedine Hajjaj can see that 0.8 of a second. Yeah, I am going to get DRS here on lap 16. Window has just opened for us to come in and get a soft tyre on. So 2 separate races now holding themselves out. And as it stands, it is going to be currently Suzuki's Igniters on an almost flawless meeting, looking like they're going to take the title. It looks like it's those 2 Haases who will take Future Racing Team back up into a better position compared to Venturi, and RSC at the moment look like they're done compared to AMR, as Kareem gets 10 seconds of speeding and retires, which will mean that it's down to just Sam Barker here against the Williamses of Knight and Mishra. I think Alien are going to make some money.
I just don't understand what's in Karim's mindset there. I appreciate his race has gone, particularly poor, but with every point is needed in order to hold on to P9 in the standings, and that might have just settled the fate of Tatum Restech finishing in last place in this championship. That's disappointing.
It's really disappointing because the points mean anything out there. Fedamori still continuing on with 15 seconds worth of time penalty out there at the moment. It's been a torrid day at the office there for him. Misha currently in 5th place, and look at that front left. Absolutely ugly out there. Bowling shoe ugly with the wear that is there on the front. And now we're going to get a taker down into the lane. In will come David.
Critical, this one as well. These tyres have gone 17 laps, and if they're gonna move over to a soft tyre, they've got to take them 12 laps in order for them to manage it. I don't think it's a soft. I think these are mediums at this point in this race. If they want to go to a soft, I have a sneaky suspicion they've got to take these tyres at least another 5 or 6 laps before the soft tyres is actually going to be kind of eligible. I think the medium tyres are going to be the choice tyre now.
They will be at this point. Max van der Geest then has got himself in the pits out and away. He's 17th at the moment, and now everyone will be jumping up with those who are in. Still waiting on 3 drivers, Dan, Zinedine Hajjaj and Knight, to go and make those stops. Silo and Volakongan currently 1 and 2 at this point in time, and they are smiling at the way that this has gone out. They have put a very strong team together on the board. Yes, they've got Alex Marciano behind. Yes, they've got Aaron, Ryan, Caden back in the train, but that's the key. Here at Lusail, it's a train. That's the way the race works.
Hopefully we'll get the tyres back on in a second, because this is a critical part of the race now when it comes to the strategy. But situation report is that you've got a bucket of penalties for Fed Morris at the back anyway. Samuel Barker down in P17 with Misha in P15, and the other Williams driver, where is he at the moment? I'm just losing my sight. He's in P3, but yeah, he's still meant to make his pit stop. Looking very much likely MS are going to be making some money here, as you rightfully point out, Jake, as they now enter the pit lane. Silo will reclaim the lead of this race with 10 laps to go. It'll be as they come across the line. So the situation for them is pretty clear now for Silo and Volakongan. Just bring those cars home, boys.
David is 6 seconds off the back of this lead train here. Dan has made the stop. Gavroche with the fastest lap check mark next to the name. It won't matter that it could be in their hands. It's another point away if the worst of the worst were to happen to Silo and to Volakongan in the final stages of this race. At the end of this lap, there'll be 10 laps left in the Ultimate Masters. But critically here today, this is going to be where you're starting to wonder whether this race is going to go the way that they all have maybe looked at it over the season. I look at AMR, and they've needed just the marquee results, but they've been few and far between here. I think AMR, if they've been a bit more consistent, another 3 for Samuel Barker, they could have been thinking about a lot more than just 3rd in the championship. They could have been going for the title.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the other side of it as well on the side of Venturi and FRT. Venturi will be hoping to hold on to P5 in the standings, but as it stands so far, their nearest rivals in P6, FRT, are both of their drivers are in front of both of the Venturi drivers, and they're also on a medium tyre while the rest are on aging hards. It's looking a little bit downbeat at the moment if you're a Venturi fan.
It looks desperate. Remember, Venturi have 7 points of difference right now. 8th and 9th in terms of this race will score, I believe, 21 points. 30 for a win, 25 for second, 22 for third, 20 for fourth, 18, 16, 14, 12, 11 then for that ninth, and 10th is 10 points. So that's where you're starting to look around and go, okay, 21 points. That's fine. We've got to get, 14 out there. Gavroche in 10th right now. That's 9 points out there. You take 9 points to be in 10th position, but you turn around, you look at where Max van der Geest is. He's in 13th position out there, and that will be 5 points then. That would be 14. It would go to count back at the moment, but penalty for Gotto could put Venturi still into position. So David and Dan here on those mediums, they might have to run the gauntlet here. Jump through Otso Zito, Okshu, Caden, Aaron Wright to get that championship position.
The problem for Max van der Geest is that he's got both of the AMS drivers on medium tyres at the moment behind him, closing up at a rapid rate of knots. So they might be able to get the penalty position off of Gotto, but with those medium tyre runners in AMS, there is a chance here that actually that battle for the bottom of the standings may end up interfering with the battle for the middle of the standings here, which is just so critical at the moment. David and Dan, of course, on those medium tyres are going to close up the gap to Otso Zito and Osku. Both of their drivers now switching positions because they are hoping that they can close up the gap and start earning some positions. A P6 and a P7 would be magnificent for the Future Racing team.
It would. Future Racing team know that they just got to start running the pace here, jumping the gauntlet and doing everything they can. As far as the Tatum Rest Tech position is, a 0 for Kareem because he's out the race. Samuel Barker would be on 3 points. It would be 5 scored for Misha, 6 for Knight, and AMS would find themselves through with what they've got. We focus with Knight trying to get down the inside of Gotto here on circuit. This is to try and stay with Max van der Geest, and especially when they started with basically 0 points and only 9 rounds to score the points, to not be last, and a team that didn't even qualify themselves into this championship. They had to rely on a wildcard entry in. That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge here for AMS at the moment, especially with Samuel Barker with that time penalty down in P17, looking like he's not going to be scoring any higher than that one. And of course, Karim deciding in very unfortunate circumstances for the Tatum Rest Tech outfit to retire from this race, despite the fact he was the lead driver at TRT. Samuel Barker, another time penalty now up to 12 seconds, making it really poor for Sam at the moment as well. We'll keep an eye out on AMS Knight, who's going to get a nice toe off of the back of Gotto. Even with the penalty, it's not going to matter as AMS look to try and get themselves up to P13 and continue on their run, as there goes Tatum Rest Tech's final driver in this one, and I think that one solidifies AMS's position in the standings.
It will do, and it will be nil point for Tatum Rest Tech then, as they say, day is done, can't get anything out of it, just picking up way too many penalties on the run. FRT now have caught within a second here of Otso Zito, so Dan here is really doing a great job out there to go and get those points. Zindine Hajjaj is through on Gavroche as well, so that was also an important move that needed to be made, but suddenly front of this group, 7 laps, 7 cars, run it through one at a time. Future Racing team, so long as they can keep the tyre life in play, they've got a really great chance here.
The biggest surprise for me has been David. I've been very uncharacteristic here. He's definitely been the second best driver throughout this race weekend versus Dan at a circuit which I would have thought David be absolutely all over it. But now you've got Dan all over the back of Otso Zito. This move is going to be inevitable, you suspect. The question is, though, is he going to get more than one done? Get a great exit out of the final corner of 16. He'll tuck in underneath the rear wing of Otso Zito. He may go for a late dive here going into one, or is he going to hold station? He continues to hold station, curiously. He's got the tyres at the moment, has the Haas driver, as he hopes to potentially convert FRT's radical performance to the left side of the board once again, as Knight gets the move done on Max van der Geest. I did say those medium tyres are coming to play.
They would do. So van der Geest, to remember, took the mediums an awfully long way. Now trying to get those hard tyres to do something similar to stay with good life and not need to be managed over this run, but clearly it's still good for those on a medium tyre. More for Fedamori. How many penalty points can he pick up in a race like this tonight? That's going to be something of note then, as we watch van der Geest see Knight jump off into the distance for Alien Motorsport. Nothing more to be said about it, but we know that FRT need places, and they need places like nobody's business out there at this point. The moment with Gavroche in 11th, with Max van der Geest in 13th, it's not enough. They've got to get by Otso Zito, and probably both of them need to get by Otso Zito, and maybe even Oshku as well.
Yeah, this is important for Dan. Sorry, he needs to start making some inroads. He should, in my opinion, have gone for the move on the previous lap because he's still tucked in behind Oscu, but he's elected not to. Is he going to go for it going into one again? No, he's not. He's going to continue running in tandem, but in doing so, he's burning through his tyres, but the grip is there around the outside maybe of two as they continue around here. It looks like this is going to be squeezed off, and he is squeezed off, but they'll continue side by side regardless of being squeezed off. He's given the position back to Otso Zito, but he's going to go for the dive anyway. This is critical. He gets the move done, but is the stewards going to have anything to say about that one?
Well, it's getting a little bit physical out there for these drivers. They know what their race is out there. Otso Zito knows that they're safe in terms of their points haul with the place Aaron Reyes. Kevin also picking up penalty point as well for the Angry Sharks. But you turn around and look at it here, James, and you go, they must make moves. You're pushed out. Effectively, that's tete-a-tete. It's either both are going to get a penalty for it or none of them.
I think Dan probably realised he should have got that move done a lap ago, so that's the reason why he's decided to get his elbows out a little bit here. Be interested to see what the stewards think of something like that one, just a little bit of argy-bargy between the pair of them, but he'll continue around the circuit now up in P7. He'll try to close down the gap on Oscu to get that one done, but FRT might be thinking that they might be able to get P5 in the standings, but if the penalty is applied to Dan, that could allow Ventari right back into the mix.
It very much could, so keep an eye out there as they have got themselves set and saying, look, there is still championship effort out there. We are still trying to get these points. Dan into 7th. They don't want to get a points penalty out there. And you look around and see how many they've had over the course of this season. Future Racing Team have 3. So if they go to 4, it's a 5-point deduction. That's what they're staring down the barrel of if the steward's decision doesn't go their way. So that is big. Caden now with penalty. That's going to sting.
The rears are starting to light up a little bit now for Dan. That's going to offer a little bit of a risk now for the lead FRT driver, but he's going to get the move done on Oscu. They collide going through that corner. They continue side by side. He's nudged off of the circuit. Oscu is under a lot of pressure from Dan because Dan is trying to throw everything at everyone at the moment. It seems very Ronhar-esque at the moment, if I'm perfectly honest with you, with Dan. He gets the move done on Oscu. He's up to P6, but again, are the stewards going to get a clip to review? You've got to keep it clean, son.
Well, Dan Ronhar here is doing everything he can to set himself up, we'll say colloquially, at this moment. But he knows every place will count. He doesn't have to pass Caden on track now to get the position, but as high as you can go is going to be what you're looking at right now. Crossing the line here, we're on to lap 26 here of 29. That's 4 laps to go in this race, and right now for Dan, 5 cars to get through. I think he's going to be burning too much up here, trying to get these passes. David's on the back of Otso Zito now, and so too soon will be Zinedine Hajjaj. So these teams all eyeing up points, all eyeing them up late. This is where the mediums have to be good and resolute, because you've just got to make clean passes, and it is tough to pass at Losail because you've got to be counterintuitive to how you normally go and make a pass.
I can't help but feel, but Dan is trying to compensate for his teammate at the moment because David, down in P9, still struggling to get past Otso Zito at the moment, as it looks like a little mistake from Caden might offer some side-by-side action through these sweeping corners. They continue going through here. Later breakout opportunity for Dan. He'll have the traction, gets the switch back. Will he now have the traction out of the corner? He certainly will do as they head through the treble right-hander. Opportunity is defending on the inside line, but the switchback opportunity is there. Excuse me, if it can't be defended, but Caden will continue here and holding on to P5. He has a point to prove now, does the AART man. He might not be an AART driver for long if he can defend this one, as David again going wide. He's struggling out there. He needs to get these moves done for FRT's sake.
Alex Marciano, the 3 seconds of penalty will hang like a Damocles over his head, knowing that even if he does get by the cars in front, that's critical. Caden has lost DRS. So, because of that, that's not one car through, that's two cars through. Osku following in the wheel tracks of Dan. Pass made.
Oh, David's still in P9. He can't get any kind of inroads done because everyone is battling so hard. But I just think his general, confidence at the moment is just a little bit low. I thought, I'd have thought he'd have been up there at a circuit like this one, but he just can't seem to have the bravery to go for a move. Meanwhile, Dan up to P5, albeit maybe with some questions from the stewards. But either way, with Zinedine Hijaj down in P10, breathing down the neck of the medium tyre runner on one lap fresher medium tyre as well, David is actually in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, Dan's looking at this, and I don't think he'll be too comfy with where he is. He's at a second at this moment, and he's really going to have to get to Aaron Rye 1.1. This is tough. This could be the moment where it all gets undone. Osku's desperately trying to hold on, and he's doing a good job at 3/4 of a second. Dan's not there. David's got to find a way through, but he's at the back of the train trying to jump on forward. We'll be at 2 laps to go. More for Kevin then in terms of the penalty front. But I think Dan here realises, I've not got enough. Look at the battery. There's nothing left. Watch it, how this gap is going to be hunted down. And critically, it's Osku who has been there to jump away. Caden's got nothing. Otso Zito dives by.
Oh, David has got to get some moves done and fast, and he senses it. He needs to get it done against Caden. He'll go for the dive down the inside. He's finally got up to P8 here. He sensed it. He's gone for it. He's now going to try and chase down Otsazito while Dan tries to harvest some kind of energy, because otherwise he's a sitting duck as Hijaj is trying to get past Caden as well.
Gavroche is there, Von der Geest is there, Gotto onto a soft will steal the fastest lap point away, and Caden right now is really hating those hard tyres. They are in agony. Through, it's contact, Zinedine Hijaj holding on down the inside. Oh, pick a pocket, Gavroche. He doesn't get one, he gets two.
Oh, that one might save Ventauri's blushes here as well, with David only in P8 here. So this is where David needed to work with Dan to get the inroads. If they were 5th and 6th, regardless of the situation with Gavroche, FRT will be singing high and dry. But because of the situation with David, I'm sorry, I think now FRT are at serious risk of not getting P5 as a result, despite the fact we've got this battle starting to brew between Aaron and Alex Marciano as we start the last lap of this race.
And Alex Marciano has fallen off late, and he's now going to move to the right-hand side. Firm defence, not going to give anything out there in terms of slipstream, but Aaron Rye doesn't want it because he'll just work the outside line and he'll use it late into turn 1 around the outside. This is where AMR want a spot on the podium. He's pushed out, he takes the styrofoam board for troubles as well, as now this is going to bring Dan into the party. A desperate Dan right now in the final lap of this season. They've allowed SCI to break away at the front, but Dan has now sat himself down. He said, look, I'm here. I'm going to look for a move. Down the inside, then over at 6. Going for the pass. He's got a bit of contact there. So that's the slide off the exit. Can't quite get the run. And now he's looking to try and chop and find any run through. Aaron Rye is now defending. And I think Alex Marciano knows 3 seconds worth of time penalty. This one for the podium between Dan and Aaron Rye. A podium here of 22 points for Dan would be massive late on in this race. It would confirm what they're looking for over the likes of Ventauri for a top 5 finish and 150 euros in the back pocket. But already to the final corner, we must go because Title Town is waiting again. It's been a 3-year wait, but it's the perfect way to get it done. A 1-2 SCI Jesus Cedars Igniters are your 2026 champions of the Velocity Ultimate Masters.
Oh my goodness me. Well done to SCI, but Marciano's time penalty has now allowed David to go up to P7, but he split FRT's David and Gavroche, so that's allowed a 1 position deficit extra for the likes of David against Gavroche. And Max von der Geeks managed to get the move done on Caden. It wouldn't have mattered anyway with the time penalty, so Ventari 9th and 11th, FRT 4th and 7th. Is that enough for FRT to be 5th overall?
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. Gotto is going to come over the line in 16th. Fedamori will be 17th then. It's been a horrid day for Fedamori and really the Angry Sharks. They've shown flashes here, James, but ultimately flashes aren't enough to get you into a top 5 position.
No, that's the fact of the matter, isn't it, at the end of the day, as we just see the Angry Sharks finalising this championship by putting the cherry on top of what has been a magnificent season of F1 25 and this Ultimate Masters tournament by Velocity Esports. Fantastic stuff.
Well, it can't be any more fantastic than what we've seen. But once again, it is 6 wins out of 7 for Silo. And I think the fact of the matter is quite simple, James. Without Silo, I think, there would have been so much more of a title fight than they are. In fact, they could have even been on the back foot if it weren't for the results of Silo. He has been the sole reason why they've been up there. It has been that dominant.
Yeah, Silo has been by far the fastest driver on console and definitely the joker in the Suzuki Igniter's pocket, but that is not to put a discredit to the general team performance. At the end of the day, Valakongan didn't have the pace to be into that top 3 throughout qualifying, but regardless, they've managed to then use the strategy to absolute effect. And yeah, a few little lucky strides around with that collision between ETA and AMR means that they finish 1-2. That's just as a result of the cohesive synergy in the Suzuki Igniters.
And that cohesion, I think, is really important because you're talking about this as a championship, not of individuals, but a championship of that as a team. And it doesn't matter whether you have a bad round one week. It's all about how you bounce back, how you recover, and how you get yourself back in. Of course, Silo is effectively the Konami code out there for anyone who wants to try and go out there and use it. But talking of combination, you can't sit back in a series like this and wait for the result to come to you. I think you do have to, in some respects, go out there and be a go-getter. We saw that in the early part of the season, that it took probably about 6 or 7 rounds before we knew who the main contenders were going to be.
Yeah, because it just goes to show that in the end, despite the fact that the Suzuki Igniters managed to win this title, they did have to go all the way to the end, and that is just a testament to the fact that the teams are actually more tightly compacted than actually meets the eye. But the unfortunate scenario is some of those teams have actually started to falter, and one of those being ET8. They've just not managed to find any kind of mojo out there this season, any kind of rhythm this season, and that's the reason why this championship trophy has now fallen into hands to the Scottish outfit.
Let's take a look once more at the prize graphics here. So this is what they're all racing out there for over the course of this season. A full €500 out there for a championship victory here in the Velocity Ultimate Masters. And so when you're sitting down and you're understanding, okay, that's what you're looking at here. €500 right now for a team. What would that mean for a team like SCI?
SCI will be earning the big money in other championships as well. So this is a bucket load of cash that will allow other drivers of young caliber, young talent starting to brew, to feel that they've got a home that will offer them potential growth. And this is where that extra little bit of cash flow allows for additional depth within the squad as well. And that's not to discredit the facts of ET8 not finishing the winners. They still get a bucket load of cash to potentially invest in the depth within the team, because that is where their fault is lying at the moment, and that is where everything is all going to be about. Before I wrap it up here, Jake, I just want to put on the record as well for my thanks to everyone part of Velocity Esports Racing for a fabulous season of Ultimate Masters, and of course a big thank you to yourself as well for being my co-commentator for this one. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure to be jumping on with racing like this. This Velocity Ultimate Masters, of course, is brought to you by Hyundai, Intercomp, Level Academy, Brand Garage, Monster Energy, and The Specialist. Let's take a look at this special graphic that has been put up together for you, ladies and gentlemen. Your Season 5 champions are the Shazoo Cedars Igniters. The team then worked with Silo, Tech, Volakongan, Finley, Jeroen, Laurens, Snack, and Dirk. 7 wins, 8 poles, 2 fastest laps, 410 points, and ultimately a team that deserves, with that sort of record there, James, to be Ultimate Masters.
That is the well-deserved fact at the end of the day. They are the most consistent team out there at the moment of the Shizucida Igniters, and they will continue in their form despite the doubts that I might have had for them. I'll be honest with you, going into the 2026 year, they are showing to be the team to beat continuously, and it'll be interesting to see with this generation of F1 car now put to bed, what are they going to be able to deliver with the next gen?
Well, that next generation will now sit themselves up and say, look, next time it could be us out there. It's a whole new ball game, a whole new car, a whole new way of understanding what is there on the basis of what is going to be in front. It's going to be a long hibernation for us as we wait for the next season, but we know that season 6 will be there. There'll be teams hungry and chomping at the bit to prove that they have what it takes to be the ultimate master. From everybody here on Velocity Esports Racing, what a wonderful championship. Your champions here in Season 5, Shazoo, Cedars, Igniters.